Hey guys, this is Gina. I am in Bossier City, Louisiana, and welcome to my YouTube channel. The first thing that we're going to do is a Valentine project, a small quilt, and then a pillow, a table runner, or you could do placemats if you chose. So we're going to start off by unrolling the jelly roll and laying it out. So it'll be this, and then, ooh, I love this one. And then this. All right, so that'll be one strip set. You just need 12 strip sets. If you have a jelly roll with multiple colors, just make sure that the center one is contrasting the outside too, and you'll be good. So all we're gonna do, I'm just gonna lay these out. I'm gonna press these creases where the fabric was folded and rolled out, and then just set them to the side, and then we'll go to the sewing machine and sew the three together. So, you know, whenever you're pressing fabric, you never want to go you're just going to press down, and that seam that crease should be out. So we're going to sew these three strips together, and then we're going to subcut these down into squares. So if you sew three 2.5 inch strips together, that's 6.5 inches. So we're going to subcut them down 6.5 inches. The thing, these peaks, or the tips of these, from the tip to the tip is 2.5 inches. So you want to make sure, if you're sewing with a 1/4 inch foot, that that's your 1/4 inch mark, or that tip should be what's hitting the edge of your foot. Right here. And where you're watching is right here. Right where the fabric meets the foot. That's where you need to be keeping your eye on. You need to make sure that your fabric is staying aligned. So hopefully that gave you a good example of what it should look like when it's under your sewing foot. Make sure that our fabrics are lined up with each other, and they are. And then we're going to sew. I'm just going to sew to my finger because that's as far as I know is lined up. And then we're going to realign and continue on. So to chain piece, the way that you do that is you're just going to sew all the way to the end of this. And if you notice, this one actually ends before this one does, but I'm still going to sew all the way to the end of this long one so that we can feed our next set in. And then just how this one has ended, can you see that? It's right here. We're just going to feed this one in right behind it and sew. So then whenever they all come out, they'll all come out connected. We can clip them apart. Okay, so we got the first two sewn together. And it should look like this. All right. So we're not going to press this yet. We're just going to go ahead and sew the next strip on. And then we'll press all of them at the same time. Okay. So we've got our strip. We're going to do the same thing we did with the first two. We're just going to line them up on top of each other. We're going to make sure that we remember that the tips or the peaks are your 2.5. So that's what you're going to line up on the edge of your 1/4 inch foot. All right, guys, so we've got our strips sewn together and they look like this. And now it's time to press them. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set our seam. And then we want to press both seams in the same direction. So we're just going to press up. And if we do that, then when we get ready to put our block together, our seams will nest. So we're first going to set our seam. And again, you're not moving your iron back and forth like this. You're just setting it on the seam. I'm not even putting pressure on it. We're going to open it up. And then we're going to, like I said, again, you're not going to Move your iron back and forth. You are going to push this fabric up. Make sure there's no folds. When you're done, that seam should look like that. Now we want to do this one. We're going to do it the same way. We're going to press it up again. So now we're going to take this over to the cutting board. So we'll be able to get 6.5 inch blocks out of this. 4 of them we're going to use for our quilt. The other 2 we're going to set aside to use for our table runner or placemats if you choose to do placemats. So come with me to the cutting table. Okay, so you're going to take a line and you're going to line it up on this seam. Okay, so if you see here, this line, we have it lined up on this. Okay, so we're gonna hold our hand with one finger off the ruler here on this ruler. We're gonna make sure our lines are lined up. You're gonna put your hand on your ruler like that, hold it down, keep one finger off to kind of help with stability. Then you're gonna make sure that you're holding your rotary cutter straight up. You don't want to be holding it like this or like this. You want to make sure that it's perpendicular to your ruler. And then you're going to go ahead and cut. You're lining up this side here, but you're also making sure it's lining up here. All right, so you're going to continue to cut. You're going to cut 6 out of this. 2 of them you're going to set to the side to use for a later project, and 4 of them you're going to put in a pile for the quilt. All right, so here we go. We're going to cut the rest. And if ever let's just say you get here and this is not lining up and this isn't you can't have both this lined up and this lined up. Just go ahead and pull your ruler off that edge a little bit and make a fresh cut. So pull your ruler off, make sure this is lined up perfectly. Okay, and we're gonna do just like we did on that first one. We're gonna go ahead and trim here, and then we're gonna flip it around, and we're gonna trim again. All right, so that's 3. Now, you can see that the fold is here. So what we're gonna do is flip this around and we're gonna start cutting from the other side. So again, we're lining up. We're lining up on this seam. We're making sure that we're not on this selvage, and we're gonna cut. So again, we're gonna flip this around. We're gonna line up on the side. We're also gonna line up here. Trim that off. And that's our 4th one. So now we have 4 over here that are gonna go with the quilt. So these other 2 we're gonna set to the side. And what we're gonna do, this is a 6.5 inch ruler and we're making 6.5 inch squares. So we're just gonna line this line, the ruler line up on this fold. You see this line here, we're just lining it up on this fold. All right, so we've got this lined up here and we're ready to cut. So we're gonna line the edge of the ruler up here, and then we're gonna line that line up the same as we had done before here. So it's gonna look like this. So this, see, is a straight line. And then here you have this. And again, you're gonna do the same thing. So if ever you put this line here and this is not lining up, then all you have to do is slide your ruler over a little bit and make a fresh start. Okay, so we're lined up here. We're lined up across here. So we're gonna cut. Now, from each of these, you're gonna get 6.5 inch squares, okay? So since we know that we're going to be able to get 6 from these, we know that we need 48. So we're going to need 8 strips. 8 6.5 inch strips. So we have 1. This is going to be 2. Okay, so now that we have our strips cut, I'm going to leave mine folded in half because we know that we need 6 from this, and we know that we can get 3 from this side and 3 from the other. So instead of unfolding and cutting 6, I'm just going to cut 3 times and half my whole 6. Now remember, we have this selvage here, so we want to make sure when we set our ruler on this that we set it where that selvage is not going to be inside of our block. So I'm going to move my ruler over just a bit, and we're going to line up here on the bottom with the line just like we've done before. All right, so here we are, we're lined up here. So we're going to cut. We're going to pull that aside. Here we're going to line up again. We're going to cut. And we have one more. Going to line up. And you're going to cut. So you have, all right, so we're going to do that with all 8, and that's going to give us our 48 6.5 inch squares here. And we have one more thing to cut, and then we'll be ready to start sewing next week. We need 3 2.5 inch strips. And we're going to cut in a little bit. We're going to line this up at the bottom on this fold. So that's one. All right, now we're going to flip this over and cut it down to the 2.5. So now we're going to line that 2.5 inch up here. And we're going to make sure this is lined up on that fold down here. And we're going to cut. So we got to do 2 more of those. So again, we're leaving the fabric folded because we know we are going to get 8 from each side because it's an even number. So we're just going to leave the fabric folded and cut both at the same time. So we're going to go ahead. Again, we're lining up here and here. 8. Right, you just got to do that 2 more times to those other 2 strips, and then we're done cutting, guys. And we're going to be ready to, so we're going to have these, and then we have these, and then we have our strip sets. So we're going to be ready to sew next week. And I'm very, very excited. So I will see y'all next sew. Have a good week.